YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. The day of the NBA draft. And I know the last mock draft, I said it was my final one, but the day of the draft, I thought, why not? And because the order has changed a little bit and we're hearing some new things. So, final mock draft for sure today, the day of the draft. And it was interesting because I made this thumbnail, well before this because we're learning that RJ Barrett's got to be the lock to the Knicks. Like, we know the top three, we knew the top two were locked, and now RJ Barrett, even though we kind of knew it, it's going to be a lock. But then we're hearing the Knicks not only worked out Darius Garland the other day, but the day of the draft, they work out Kobe White. So that's interesting, but I still think RJ Barrett's a lock. We'll kind of get to that in the mock draft. Since this was kind of last second, I'm using this very cool website to do this. We'll go over what it is, and I'll have a link in the description so you guys can kind of play along as well. Right before we get started, I made a new subscriber goal. We reached that 20K so fast. I want to double it by the end of 2020. I think it's realistic with the big plans we got coming up. We're going to cover the NBA draft here like we did, the NBA free agency, but our favorite thing, NFL, in-season NFL coverage. So please help us out. If you haven't subscribed to the GOAT House yet, it'd be much appreciated. If you can do that, daily sports content here. There's our Twitter in the top right, link in the description as well. But taking a look at this site here, it is called basketball.realgm.com. I'll put a link in the description. Very cool. Helped me out a lot here because kind of last second didn't have time to make all the graphics here. But it's very cool because it gives you like the exact order and it gives you the players here. And then this is the best part. It gives you the depth chart, So that helps out a lot here. Any of you want to go make your own, it's a pretty cool site here. So the Pelicans with the first pick, I'm going to go with Zion. It's pretty obvious here, so you check that, and then you draft player. So then Pelicans get Zion. We can go recap it all after we get through. The Grizzlies, like I said, it's pretty much locked in. Ja Morant. They just traded Conley to kind of make it locked in. It still shows Conley there, but he's on the Utah Jazz. So they need, even though Conley had a great career and he can still play, they need that point guard of the future. Ja Morant's an excellent athlete. So we're going to send him to Memphis. And like I said, the Knicks, maybe it's not quite locked in, but I'm going to say it is. RJ Barrett, third overall pick to the Knicks. And we could see, he can fill the shooting guard spot or the small forward spot there. Some people think he's shooting guard. Some people think small forward. Knox has got a pretty good future. But as you can see, They need a lot. They need a lot, but it's good to have the third pick. I know they expected to have one, but now the interesting thing, and there's still a lot of good players. That's why I'm excited for this draft, even though we kind of know the top three picks. I keep saying it, but every year I'm excited every year for the NBA draft, but it's usually like, okay, there's one or two like top tier guys, and then there's some guys that could contribute at a high level right away. I think we got a good 8 guys that can really make an impact right away. And that's a lot, in my opinion, for an NBA draft, looking at recent ones. So, and there's more than 8 players that can help a team, but I'm talking about players that can really make an impact and really help the team. So it gets interesting here. Pick 4 the Pelicans. I'm starting to think, the last one I had him taking DeAndre Hunter, which would be great. Really, you can't go wrong with all these players, but I'm really starting to think they trade this pick, and that's the unfortunate thing. It's hard to say who. I hear the T-Wolves are making a very strong push to come up, but they got to come way up. The Pacers got to come even further up. I heard they're interested. And let me look at the teams that need that point guard who want to come up for Darius Garland. We're looking at the Suns and the Bulls. The Suns are in a very tricky situation I talked about in our trade scenarios video, which we did yesterday. So if you haven't seen that, please check it out. They also did prospect rankings. But the Suns are in a tricky spot because they could possibly trade up and give away things to get their point guard to be on the safe side. And it could turn out that it could make you think, the Suns won't think, but fans may think, could we have held on to our future, sat put, just stayed right at our pick and got our point guard still? Because the teams ahead of them, the way the Pelicans sit with Lonzo Ball and the Cavs, they don't really need that point guard. The Cavs have Colin Sexton from last year. So the Suns potentially could stay put, but they may want to trade up to the Pelicans pick because the Bulls or those other teams, like I said, the T-Wolves or the Pacers possibly, the Hawks, another team too, not for a point guard, but maybe for a guy like DeAndre Hunter or Jarrett Culver, possibly Cam Reddish, because the Hawks have multiple picks to package. Maybe the Celtics, because they have multiple picks. That is the wild card team. So because I think this pick will be traded, and I think it'll be traded for a guy that we've been hearing about, who teams want to come up and get, and that's Darius Garland. And I like Darius Garland's game. I wish he was healthy this year. Not a huge deal. He's 100% healthy now. The 2.6 assists, little, I don't want to say scary, but it's a little bit of a concern. He's not the best passer, doesn't really want to pass the ball, but he can move. He's real smooth, and he can shoot. So that's the reason he's going to go this high. I like his game, but there are some slight concerns. I think he goes 4th pick. It's hard to say. The T-Wolves are making a strong, strong push. I have a feeling the Bulls, I think the Bulls will do it. So that's why it's hard to make this mock right now, because it's hard to predict. I mean, honestly, the Pelicans can do it too and take him too and trade Lonzo Ball or have them battling out. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the Bulls. I happen to be a Bulls fan, a big Bulls fan, so I'm going to talk about my thoughts on them and what they should do with Darius Garland in that situation. I feel strongly about something very recently, so once we get to the Bulls. The Cavs can get a boatload here in a trade and trade back. Teams are really liking Kobe White right now, so maybe it's not even Darius Garland. Maybe that's all smoke. Usually it's the NFL draft. We hear a bunch of BS, but it definitely happens in the NBA draft. So maybe teams want to come up for Kobe White because he can pass a little better, and Garland's got some length to him, but Kobe White's got some serious length, and he's a high IQ player. So maybe it's Kobe White. The Cavs already have their point guard. Do they go? I mean, the Cavs have a great. They have great options here, and that's why they can trade back and still get their option if they want to trade back a little bit. Maybe the Hawks if they want to come up, but the Cavs, it's between Jarrett Culver, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish. What I would do, I would go with DeAndre Hunter. It's hard to say what they would want to do. It's very tough. I think they would go. I don't know why it says DeAndre Hunter's at power forward. I like the site, but I'm not sure why it says it there. He's a small forward in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to be. But it's tough to say with the Cavs. DeAndre Hunter makes the most sense. They're missing LeBron, so you want to find the most LeBron-like guy, and it's none of them really. But who is like the most similar style? I mean, DeAndre Hunter brings some of that defense, and he can score, which people forget. Culver's got that. He's very flashy, and Reddish is a guy that's just really growing on me. It's just something about him. When I cover the NFL draft too, sometimes I just see the players and there's something about them right. I just think they're gonna have really good success. So Reddish is really growing on me. This is tough here. To me, I'm leaning towards Culver or Hunter. I'm gonna go with Hunter here. I think he's got that extra. It's because the defense. Culver can play really good defense as well. He's lengthy, but DeAndre Hunter. I'm going to go with him. It's tough between Culver and Hunter there. Very tough. It's a toss-up. So the Cavs are in a good situation at least. And then we're to the Suns. If Kobe White's still on the board when they're up, I think that's what they go with. So I think it's a no-brainer. They want him or Darius Garland. They're looking for that point guard to start winning games because they have Booker, they have Ayton, they have some other good young talent there. So as you can see, almost forgot about the depth chart. Booker, Bridges, Warren, but he's on the trading block I'm hearing very recently, and DeAndre Ayton. So Oubre's a solid player too. So they just need that point guard. That's what they need. So they got to make sure they get their guy, I suppose. So we'll draft him. And then now the Bulls are on the clock. And in this situation, even if it's the Bulls or if it's not the Bulls, this has got to be Jarrett Culver. And I'm honestly surprised with myself he's still here, but I guess in this scenario with the trade up to 4, whoever it is, taking Darius Garland or Kobe White, the other one would go to the Suns. But in this scenario, that one of Hunter, Culver could be here at this point, or could Reddish be the first one of those guys off the board? And then both Culver and Hunter will be here. Very interesting. This is going to be my favorite part. Those guys are my favorite part of this draft class. But the Bulls, this is what the Bulls should do. I like Darius Garland. I know the Bulls need a point guard. But if they're going to go, and I don't know if Kobe White's worth trading up for, in my opinion. I like him. Like I said, 8 players that can make a huge impact. Kobe White's one of them, but he's probably my number 8. But I do like him. But do I trade up? And then same for Darius Garland. I like his game a lot, liked his tape a lot, like his potential. He can score. I know where he's kind of missing kind of the assist, the passing. Is it worth trading up? The good news, if they trade up and give up future, I don't want them to get rid of Lavine. I've heard some of that. But the good news, if they give up next year's first-round pick, for us Bulls fans here, the good news is we're not in tank mode anymore. So finally, we're out of tank mode. We gave up our next year first rounder. So it kind of stings a little bit to not have to know that you don't have a first rounder next year. But at the same time, we're out of tank mode. It's kind of a relief at the same time. So it's not the worst thing. But do we really need to trade up a few spots to get this point guard in Darius Garland that I do like? I keep saying it. I like his game. But do we need to do this for a score first point guard, which we've been lacking, which we need, or do we trade Lavine? Here's my idea. Lavine used to be a point guard. He takes the ball up. He did very, very well taking the ball up. I mean, if you want that score first guy like that, and we see these lengthy guys taking up the ball, point guards, are dominating right now. So, I mean, why not go put Lavine, let him take up the ball, and take a guy like Culver so you can have both of them? It's very possible that the Bulls could have Lavine and Culver, but it's very possible they can actually trade Lavine or that next year first just for Garland. And obviously, that takes Culver or a guy in Culver, Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, all pretty much the same thing. I know Hunter's more of a small forward. So if you think about that, that's what I would do. I do like Garland's game. I'm not going to be upset, big time if they do trade up. There's really, you can't go wrong with a lot of these players. Even I do like Cam Reddish, even if they took him. But that's kind of my thoughts. But if Culver was here in this situation, whether it's the Bulls picking or not, it's got to be him. That has to be the 8 players off the board first. Cam Reddish is dead. There's a clear top 8 to me, and I think it'll play out. I'm hearing back to the Bulls. I'm hearing they like Jackson Hayes. That's very confusing unless they're ready to trade Lauri Markkanen. Again, I'm a Bulls fan. If they trade Lauri Markkanen, I'm gonna be pissed. I would say I'm not gonna be a Bulls fan anymore, but that's not something you can just do. You can't decide. It's kind of just in me, I'm gonna be really mad if they trade Lauri Markkanen. He's the future. Lavine was the best player last year, could be this year, but Lauri Markkanen's right there with them, and he's the future. He's a dominant power forward. So we got Cam Reddish going to the Hawks. And now things get interesting again. We got the Wizards here. And they could trade back. If you watch their trade scenarios, myself and Junior, we had both of us on the show. We talked about how the Wizards, always just had like 2 or 3 players. The third being Otto Porter was solid for them. But mainly it was John Wall, when healthy, and Bradley Beal carrying the team. They just never could put together a lineup. So with the 9th pick, you can finally get a big man like Jackson Hayes into that lineup. But at the same time, you're not really putting together a lineup. So you can trade back with a team like the Celtics, who have a bunch of picks, and make a deal with them and try to put together a lineup in a pretty good draft. I think it's very possible, and I think it's something they should look into. So they could trade back. If they sat in this spot, I think it's Jackson Hayes or Demboya. We're gonna go with they've been Hayes. It says power forward, which he could be. But he's also a center. I think he has a chance to play center. I'd like to see him start there. The Wizards have missed this for so long, but they do need another scoring option other than John Wall and Bradley Beal, and that could be Demboya. But I know a little different player, but they did have Otto Porter, who was a solid player. So I think they go Jackson Hayes in this situation. Very interesting situation though. And then the Hawks. Another interesting situation. They got Cam Reddish, who I think plays shooting guard for them. I think he's going to be a very solid shooter. I got a feeling about Cam Reddish. All right, I don't know what it is. I got a feeling. Well, I do know what it is. He's a good player. You can see it. You can't go off what you saw in Duke because obviously the top 2 recruits. It was more ISO ball. It was more ISO ball there with those two. And when Cam Reddish finally got the ball, he chucked up a stupid shot. You can't blame him too much. He'll be better in the NBA. Right team, hopefully. He'll be better. So the Hawks got him. I think he plays shooting guard for them. I know some people like small forward because of the length. I like him at shooting guard, but either one I'm fine with. And now it's tough. It's tough, actually. Right off the bat, I was going to go with Demboya, and he can play the 3 or 4. A lot of teams liking him. I liked his tape, too. But I'm hearing a lot about Bitadze from Republic. It says Serbia. I know he was from Republic of Georgia as well. So a foreign player here. I know it's a possibility he can go there. I would say don't do it if I was the Hawks. I think it's a little too early, but they could get their center of the future here to pair with John Collins at power forward. But I do like Demboya at the 3. And I do like, this is the toughest one to pick. I like Brandon Clark a lot too. He can play the 3 too. Maybe 2 similar to John Collins, we'll say. So Demboya, Batadze. It's tough. Very tough. I'm going to give him Demboya. I think they roll with him and Reddish. It's going to be tough because the 2 guys that can play multiple spots. But I like pairing. I mean, obviously Trae Young's the point guard, but it's the pair to me of Reddish at shooting guard, Demboya at the small forward spot. I really think he's a small forward. That's my opinion. And then John Collins out there at power forward. Just those players together makes a lot of sense to me. So this could be a trade spot because nothing, maybe they don't want to risk that. So that's what I'm going to go with for now. And the T-Wolves, they could trade up. They're looking for their point guard. So it's possibility they can reach for one here. I don't think so. I've really liked Brandon Clark for them. I think I'm going to stick with that. Kevin Porter Jr. could be an option. I heard he's really listed at shooting guard, but I've heard teams like him as like one of those new school point guards, so that's a possibility. We're going to go Brandon Clark. I'm going to stick with that pick. And then the 12th pick for the Hornets. This is a tough one here. They actually could go with Kevin Porter here because he can play multiple spots for them if they do lose Kemba Walker. I'm gonna go with Kevin Porter Jr. I like his upside a lot. We got the Heat at 13. I heard they're trying to move on from Whiteside and they're trying to look for that replacement at the center position. That's all I'm hearing is, guys like Batadze and Bol Bol are gonna go higher than we think. I think they'd go with Bol Bol, and they do it. He's got a ton of upside. He's got to stay healthy. He's actually got a jump shot. He actually has a jump shot better than people think. The Celtics here, they need a number of things here. They need their point guard of the future. I don't know if there's, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is an interesting one. He can play the 1 or 2, and he could score. He's pretty darn good. I think they get their big man here. There's somewhat of a gap after this. I do like Bruno Fernando. They go with Batadze here. The Celtics grab him at 14, get their big man to replace Al Horford. The Pistons now have 2 picks after the Bucks trade, but this was already their pick. Their pick at 15 here, so they pretty much they could use anything. They need backcourt, I think, mainly. I'm looking at, I was going to go Romeo Langford right off the bat. I'm going to stick with that. I was thinking Nickeil Alexander-Walker as well. But I'm going to go Romeo Langford. I think another guy that'll shoot a little better in the NBA than he did in college, but he was a very good player. Kind of had to carry that Indiana team at times. And then the Magic putting together, they got a young roster. They could use the point guard of the future. We're going to go Nickeil Alexander-Walker here from Virginia Tech to the Magic. And the Hawks are on the clock again. We see that we had them getting Reddish and Demboya. Now I think they go with their center of the future. Could it be Bruno Fernando? Couple other options. I know Claxton from Georgia's rising up boards. How does this work? Yeah, you got to go alphabetical order here. Fernando, Claxton. Oh man, there's a ton of players here. This is gonna take forever to scroll through this. Too many players. Either one, I think. This might be a little, is it 17? 17 might be a little early for Claxton, but I'm hearing he's really rising up boards. There is a concern that he could be a power forward, though, as well. So I think they want more of the true center now I'm thinking of it. So I think Bruno Fernando could be the pick here. They could trade back a little bit. And then with the 18th pick, the Pacers, here I heard they wanted to trade up. I don't know if they make that happen. Because it's a far trade up for where they're trying to go to. I think they're looking for that point guard that can really facilitate, to Oladipo, to Miles Turner. I don't know if there's one here, in my opinion, but I hear Ty Jerome's going to go higher than I think. I don't know about everybody else. I'm not super high on him. So I think since he'll go higher than what I think this could be the range here if the Pacers cannot trade up. I don't know if I would really agree with that pick, but and the Spurs are next. You still got some really good players on the board. We're seeing how good this class is. So the Spurs, I think it's tough. Some good Kentucky players left still. So we got Cameron Johnson. I'm hearing he's rising up boards. Hachimura's still left. I think the Spurs want that shooting. They go with Tyler Hero. So they get that shooting for the future. A lot of good players left. The Celtics at 20. We had them getting their big man. And now they could use another big man. They really could use a guy in that 4 spot for the future. But they need that point guard. And I don't know if there's one worthy of the spot here. So I think they go Hachimura. They go best player available. They can pair him with the foreign big man there. So they pair those guys together. Then the Thunder needs shooting. Somehow I still have Keldon Johnson on the board. Maybe not the best shooter, but he can score, and I think too good to pass at this point. We still got Nasir Little on the board. All of a sudden his stock was rising, and now I think it's falling again. He'd had an off year with UNC, so it could be him here though. But a lot of good players are still on the board. And then we're on the Celtics again, and guy I'm looking for here, they can get their point guard here. Maybe they wait long enough. We're gonna have to go through and find him here. If I can. Struggling a little bit. Looking for Carson Edwards. That's who I'm looking for. Oh, this is brutal now. Carson Edwards is the pick here. I think people are sleeping on Carson Edwards. He can score. I know people worried about, what he did during the regular season. His shooting percentage was pretty terrible. Not pretty terrible. I mean, they just weren't the best. So I think, this is going to take forever. I think that what we saw in the tournament could be something we see in the NBA. Maybe not right away. All right, we're here in the Edwards. Carson Edwards, we did it. We got there. He's just got, kind of that it factor. He's got that, the confidence and that clutch gene that we look for. So I think the Celtics pull the trigger right here. Carson Edwards, why not? And the Grizzlies get an extra pick because of the Mike Conley trade. They got Ja Morant. Now they definitely need another shooter, but then we still got Nasir Little sitting here. Cameron Johnson sitting here. Go Nasir Little. I think too good to pass at this point because he can easily be a lottery pick. So it's crazy how we still had him. Same with some of those Kentucky guys. I believe we still have PJ Washington. He's not shown right there, but I believe we still have him left. I heard he's starting to drop because people really don't know his true position. I know he's a high motor guy. He's a basketball player. And the Sixers, I think the Sixers would go Cameron Johnson in this situation. They need that, can play the 2 or the 3. They need somewhat of a shooter. And then the Blazers could go a couple options here. I think the Blazers would go PJ Washington in this situation, so we got to go find another guy. Should be down here somewhere. But yeah, I think they've been missing kind of that small forward that can pair well with Lillard and CJ McCollum. I mean, he can play the 4 too. That's what people are a little concerned about because what is he? Because he kind of played the 4 at Kentucky, but I don't know if he has the length for that. So I mean, either or, it'll help the Blazers here and kind of just too good to pass. If I can find him here, PJ Washington. There we go. Check him off. Send him to the Zers. It won't let me send him to the Zers. There we go. And the Cavs with the 26th pick. We had the Cavs taking DeAndre Hunter, maybe looking for a big man. And I find one. I noticed one right. Well, actually, 2 options here: Claxton or Kabengele from Florida State, who is I don't think a small forward. More of a power forward. We're gonna go with Claxton. We're gonna go with Claxton here for them. Either or. The Nets with 27. Tough situation because they don't know if they're getting Kyrie, and that means they don't know if they're getting D'Angelo Russell back. Interesting because they had a really good year with D'Angelo Russell. So they're in a very tough situation here. Very tough. I don't know what they would do here. Because do they go find that point guard in case... I don't know if there's one worthy of the pick. That's the problem. Just in case they can't get Kyrie. I think they can add Cavaliers from Florida State to that. He's supposed to go early. I've been like all these guys. I hear that they're supposed to go earlier than this, but some of them are gonna fall here. We see how it falls. You know how it works out. Some of these guys gotta be available down here. That shows how good this draft class is. And the Warriors, they would definitely benefit from a guy like Cavaliers. I like with Katie and Clay possibly missing all of next year. Clay will probably be back. I like Dylan Windler from Belmont. He can bring that shooting to the table. So we'll give him. We'll give him to the Warriors. And the Spurs, we had them grab shooting. And they could use more shooting. They can go multiple directions here. They can use a big man for the future as well. You know what? I like trying to think here. I was going to go with, the Tennessee guys aren't here. I like the Tennessee guys for the Spurs. But I think they could go with more of a big man here to pair with Aldridge for the future. I mean, Aldridge might not be part of the future here. So I'll give him Gafford. I like Gafford's game from Arkansas. He can play the center for the future for the Spurs. And then we got the Pistons now at the 30th pick, so that's pretty good. They took in some bad cap. We had the Pistons taking Romeo Langford. And they could go point guard or small forward here. Thibault from Washington, another guy I'm hearing he's going up boards. I like Grant Williams better. I like Grant Williams from Tennessee better. We're gonna find him and then we're gonna give him to the Pistons. He's a high motor guy. He's a basketball player. Where are the Williams at? There they are. We gotta find Grant. Couple Tennessee guys that can go in this range. I think they're a little underrated. They're kind of high motor guys. Grant Williams not the Grant Williams from Glenville State, from Tennessee. To the Pistons. I like that. I like him on the Pistons. That would be a good pick there. Takes a little while to draft the guys I got to find, I guess. But that's the mock. There you can see it right here. I could possibly put this link in the video description. I wonder if it'll bring you straight here so you can kind of get the recap there. Again, storyline is that fourth pick. If everything goes to plan at the top 3, fourth pick, will there be a trade? I think there will be a trade. It could be for Garland or Kobe White. The Bulls are a very interesting team. And the teams with multiple... The Wizards are an interesting team. I think they should trade back, try to put together a lineup. Any Wizards fans out there, let me know your thoughts on that. I know if one of these top 8 guys are there, you can't pass on them. And then maybe you can't pass on a big man like Jackson Hayes because you haven't really had one. The Hawks are interesting because they have multiple picks. The Celtics interesting because they have multiple picks for trade situations. Pistons maybe kind of join that group, so we'll see. T-Wolves and Pacers trying to trade up too, so Celtics possibly, like I mentioned. So, I mean, the Thunder are pretty desperate for like a really good shooter possibly, so maybe they can trade up to try to find that. So it's going to be very interesting. So, yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts. Going to be a fun draft. I think current good players could be traded too. So that's why it's going to be a fun one. A lot of good prospects, which we don't really see every year. So it'll be a lot of fun. Can't wait. We'll try to cover the winners and losers after. So thanks everyone for watching. If you don't subscribe, please click that button right there. Help us out and it'll be much appreciated. And we have daily sports videos covering the NFL mainly, but we also cover the NBA here. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.